If you're an average American in 2026, there's a decent chance your net worth is either much lower than you think, or you don't actually know what it is at all. And that is not a small problem. It's the difference between building long-term financial stability and drifting into retirement with no real leverage. Most people track their income. Some track their spending, but very few track their net worth properly. And even fewer understand how their net worth compares to others in their age group. Here's the uncomfortable part. Many Americans assume they're doing okay because they have a job, they pay their bills, and they might even have some savings. But net worth doesn't care about effort. It only measures results. Assets minus liabilities. If you own a car worth $25,000 but have a $30,000 car loan, that car is not wealth. It's negative net worth. In 2026, the average net worth by age in the U.S. shows extreme gaps, and those gaps are widening. For example, a typical person in their 20s might have a net worth close to zero or even negative. That's common because of student loans and low starting income. But the problem is that many people stay in that position longer than expected because they confuse lifestyle progress with financial progress. A higher salary doesn't automatically create wealth. If your expenses rise at the same pace as your income, your net worth barely moves. You can make $80,000 a year and still have less wealth than someone earning $50,000, simply because of debt structure, housing decisions, and investment discipline. And the long-term cost of this mistake is massive. A person who reaches age 35 with a net worth of $20,000 is in a completely different trajectory than someone who reaches 35 with $200,000. The second person has compounding working for them. The first person is still relying almost entirely on future labor income. That gap is not psychological, it's mathematical. If your net worth is not growing consistently, then time is not helping you. In fact, time becomes your enemy because inflation keeps moving the finish line. The core issue in 2026 is not that Americans don't earn enough. It's that most Americans have no system to convert income into net worth. And without that system, age becomes a liability instead of an advantage. To understand why the average American's net worth is so inconsistent by age in 2026, you have to look beyond income and focus on structure. Most people don't have a net worth problem because they are irresponsible. They have a net worth problem because their financial life is built around cash flow, not balance sheets. A paycheck-based lifestyle creates the illusion of progress. You get a raise, your monthly budget improves, and you feel like you are moving forward. But net worth only increases when part of that income is converted into assets that hold value or grow over time. If the money is absorbed by consumption, lifestyle upgrades, or high-interest debt, your income can rise for 10 years, and your net worth can remain flat. This problem is amplified by how Americans typically earn. Most households rely on one or two income streams, salary, and maybe a small side income. That's fine, but it means financial progress depends heavily on employment stability. If you have no significant investments, no equity growth, and no ownership assets, your net worth is fragile. A simple real-life scenario shows this clearly. Imagine a 32-year-old earning $75,000 per year. They rent a nice apartment, lease a car, and carry $12,000 in credit card debt. They have $8,000 in savings. On paper, this person feels middle-class stable. But their net worth is likely negative. Their cash flow might look manageable, but they are one job loss away from financial collapse. Now compare that to another 32-year-old earning $60,000 per year. They drive a paid-off car, have no consumer debt, and invest $700 per month into index funds and a retirement account. After a few years, their investment portfolio might reach $40,000 to $60,000. Their net worth is not just positive, it is growing automatically. Same age, similar lifestyle, completely different trajectory. This is why standard advice like just save more money often fails. Saving is not a strategy unless it's tied to a system. Many people save whatever is left at the end of the month, which usually means nothing. Others save but keep everything in cash, losing purchasing power to inflation. Another popular piece of advice is increase your income. That helps, but it's not the core solution. A higher income without discipline often produces higher fixed expenses, bigger rent, a more expensive car payment, more subscriptions, and lifestyle inflation. The deeper issue is that most Americans never design a structure where net worth growth is automatic. They manage money month to month, but they don't manage wealth year to year. And if you don't measure net worth consistently, you don't notice the problem until you are 40 or 50 and realize the numbers are far behind where they should be. When you break down why so many Americans have weak net worth numbers by age in 2026, the pattern is surprisingly consistent. The issue is rarely one catastrophic financial mistake. It's usually a set of common decisions that feel normal in the moment but create long-term damage. The first major mistake is measuring financial progress through lifestyle instead of net worth. Many people assume that if their salary increases, their car improves, their apartment gets nicer, and they can afford vacations, then they must be building wealth. But lifestyle upgrades are not wealth, they are consumption. If your assets are not growing faster than your liabilities, your net worth stays flat even if your income rises for years. This is how someone earning $90,000 can still have almost no wealth at age 35. The second mistake is delaying investing until later. This is one of the most expensive decisions in personal finance because compounding rewards early action. A simple projection makes this clear. If someone invests $500 per month starting at age 25 and earns an average return of 8% annually, by age 45, they will have around $295,000. If the same person waits until age 35 to start, they will have closer to $92,000 by age 45. The difference is more than $200,000, and it has nothing to do with talent or income. It's purely the cost of lost time. The third mistake is treating consumer debt as normal. A credit card balance of $10,000 at 22% interest costs about $2,200 per year just in interest. Over 10 years, that becomes more than $20,000 lost, and that's assuming the debt doesn't grow. The real cost is even higher because that money could have been invested. If that same $2,200 per year was invested instead at 8%, it could grow into roughly $32,000 over a decade. Debt doesn't just slow you down, it actively pulls you backward. The fourth mistake is holding too much cash for too long. Many Americans keep large savings in checking or low-interest accounts because it feels safe, but inflation quietly reduces purchasing power. If inflation averages 3%, then $50,000 sitting in cash loses about $1,500 of real value every year. Over 10 years, that can reduce the purchasing power of that money by roughly 25%. The number on the bank screen stays the same, but the financial position weakens. The final mistake is relying on intention instead of a system. Most people assume they will save or invest once life becomes easier, but life rarely becomes cheaper. Without automatic contributions, clear targets, and a structured plan, wealth building becomes inconsistent. Over 20 years, two people can earn similar incomes, but one reaches a $700,000 net worth while the other stays near $70,000. The difference is not salary, it's the decisions and structure behind it. The most reliable way to fix the net worth problem is to stop thinking in terms of saving money and start operating with a simple wealth-building structure. Automate asset growth, control liabilities, and measure progress through net worth tracking. The solution is not complicated, but it requires a system that works even when motivation disappears. The first step is to define your net worth baseline. That means listing what you own, cash, investments, retirement accounts, home equity, vehicle value, and subtracting what you owe, credit cards, student loans, car loans, mortgage, personal loans. If you do not know this number, you are guessing your financial position. Once you know it, you can track it monthly or quarterly and measure whether you are actually moving forward. The second step is to build an automated wealth transfer from income into long-term assets. A practical starting point for most people is 15% to 25% of take-home pay, split into two categories: retirement accounts and a regular investment account. The core idea is that the money should leave your checking account immediately after payday, before you can spend it. This eliminates the common mistake of trying to invest whatever is left. For example, if your take-home pay is $5,000 per month and you invest 20%, that's $1,000 per month. If that money earns an average return of 7% per year, after 10 years you end up with roughly $170,000. After 20 years it becomes roughly $520,000. That's not a fantasy scenario. It's a normal compounding outcome when contributions are consistent. The third step is to control liabilities by prioritizing high-interest debt elimination. Credit card debt and personal loans are financial emergencies because they create guaranteed negative returns. If your credit card interest rate is 20%, paying it off is the equivalent of earning a risk-free 20% return. That is mathematically better than almost any investment option available to the average person. The fourth step is to keep your investment approach simple and stable. For most people, broad index funds are the most effective tool. An index fund is a collection of many companies in one investment, which reduces risk compared to buying individual stocks. You are not betting on one company succeeding. You are capturing long-term market growth. This system is stable because it is built on predictable behavior, not perfect timing. You invest consistently, you reduce expensive debt, and you let time do the heavy lifting. It does not depend on market predictions, crypto speculation, or high-risk trades. It depends on repeated execution. The final mechanic is accountability, net worth tracking. If your net worth is rising every year, you are building wealth. If it is not, your system needs adjustment. This keeps the process objective and prevents self-deception. At this point, the main conclusion should be clear. The average net worth by age in America in 2026 is not mainly a reflection of intelligence, work ethic, or even income. It is a reflection of whether someone has a structure that converts income into assets consistently. Without that structure, time does not help. It simply increases the cost of delay. A practical system can be reduced to 5 measurable steps. First, calculate your net worth today. Add up cash, retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, and the market value of major assets like your home. Subtract every liability, including credit cards, student loans, car loans, and mortgage balances. This number is your baseline. If it is negative, that is not a failure. It is just the starting point. Second, build a minimum cash reserve. In most cases, this should be 1 month of essential expenses at first, not lifestyle spending, only necessities. This prevents small emergencies from pushing you back into high-interest debt. Once debt is under control, the reserve can grow toward 3 to 6 months, depending on job stability. Third, eliminate high-interest debt aggressively. Anything above roughly 8% interest should be treated as a priority because it blocks wealth building. Paying off a credit card balance at 20% interest is mathematically equivalent to earning a guaranteed 20% return. That is not theoretical. It is real and immediate. Fourth, automate investing. The target should be 15% to 25% of take-home pay, depending on your situation. If your take-home income is $5,000 per month, a 20% investment rate is $1,000 monthly. With an average 7% annual return, after 1 year you will likely have around $12,000 to $13,000 contributed and modest growth. After 5 years, you are around $70,000. After 10 years, you are around $170,000. The exact number depends on market performance, but the direction is predictable if contributions are consistent. Fifth, increase your savings rate when income rises instead of upgrading fixed expenses. This is where wealth separates quickly. If you get a $500 monthly raise and invest $300 of it instead of spending it, you create a permanent gap between you and someone who absorbs the entire raise into lifestyle. Over 10 years, that single decision can easily create a difference of $50,000 to $100,000 in net worth. If you follow this structure, the timeline becomes realistic and measurable. In the first year, the main result is control. Debt decreases, investments begin, and net worth stops drifting. By year 5, the system becomes visible in numbers. Investments start becoming meaningful, and net worth growth becomes less dependent on monthly income. By year 10, compounding becomes a real factor. At that point, net worth growth is no longer just something you create through work. It becomes something your assets contribute to automatically. What you should do right now is simple. Calculate net worth, set automatic transfers on payday, stop carrying high-interest debt, and track progress every quarter. The goal is not to beat the average American by age. The goal is to stop being dependent on the average financial behavior that produces weak results. If your net worth is increasing every year and your liabilities are shrinking, you are building long-term stability. That is the only metric that matters.